Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, AJ2 and this is a bonus video review because on Saturday, due to the NBA playoffs, we basically had a doubleheader of pro wrestling. We had AEW that, due to the NBA playoffs, was moved from Wednesday to Saturday. Of course, next week it'll be Thursday. But we also had NXT TAKEOVER 30 as well last night for Saturday night. I figured why not just, like old times, merge the AEW and NXT together for one video, considering there's already going to be a sports overview of topics as well, which I uploaded an hour ago prior to this video. But nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoy this video. Like and subscribe. Also, click on the bell for notifications. And with that, thank you. And let's get into the review. I'll start with AEW. Both shows ended in pretty solid fashion. We had new champions in both shows. Both were kind of, well, of course, I'll start with AEW because AEW started first. But, first off, I'll say that everybody was probably anxious because for a half hour, because the time slot for AEW was supposed to start at 6, but it was going to happen after the Miami Heat and Indiana Pacers playoff game. However, that took a half hour. So instead of 6:30, instead of 6, it started at 6:30. Whereas for me, it started at 4:30 instead of 4. Still, we got 2 hours, the full show. So can't really complain. The show started off in good fashion. FTR for his private party. FTR, they actually came out with Tully Blanchard. And we found out why later in the show. But it was a pretty good match to start the show. By the way, FTR was ranked the number 1 ranked tag team. Or number 1 contenders. So a lot on the line going into this match. But Mark Quinn, he was isolated most of the match by FTR. Then he got the contact Isaiah Cassidy, who hit dueling stunners to both Cash and Dax. For a 2 count. Was a blind tag by Mark Quinn for a crossbody for a 2 count. And then at the end of the match, FTR hit the Goodnight Express after Isaiah Cassidy crashed and burned due to Tully Blanchard pulling, I believe it was Cash Wheeler, out of the way of Isaiah Cassidy. But keeps the momentum going for FTR. I'm curious if when the Four Horsemen faction or playoff will happen soon or later, but I guess we'll see. After, we got a promo by Jon Moxley on MJF talking about how Jon Moxley can be easy pickings. He talked about his wife could give him a laundry list of all the things for him, and that MJF, he wonders what he's hiding, and that at All Out, find out what he's hiding, and talked about how MJF said he was going to leave for the next 25 years, and that Jon Moxley might not make it another 25 years. That'll be lucky to make another 6 months. So, again, Moxley is always a good promo. It's good seeing a match being drawn out and a story being built. They don't have to be in a match against each other every single week. That's what you love about this match. So, of course, we go from Jon Moxley to an update on MJF. MJF, he was at a podium with a neck brace on, selling the Paradigm Shift he took last week, with his crew behind him, with his attorney next to him, with Wardlow. Mina, his secretary, she was smiling the whole segment, which was kind of funny, but kind of feel bad for her, but oh well. He was claiming they were calling for a ban on the Paradigm Shift, and MJF talked about how he might not be able to spend time with his eventual family due to the effects caused by Moxley. He compared Moxley to dictators, and then after disgruntlement, his attorney took over, and they filed a petition for the Paradigm Shift to be banned, and that it was signed by a lot of people. And so they called for the ban for the Paradigm Shift for their match at All Out, and claimed, why does Moxley need one move to be one man? And he said that if he doesn't sign, that he'll sue Moxley for all he's worth. So, and we basically got confirmation that next week it'll be the contract signing between Moxley and MJF. So, should be interesting. We had an 8-man tag team match between the Jurassic Express, Natural Nightmares versus Butcher, Blade, and Lucha Brothers. This was chaotic as a multi-man tag team match could be, you could say. But after match is what probably got people buzzing, perhaps more than the actual match. So, at the end of the match, Pentagon looks like he was going to go for his assisted package power driver with Phoenix, but instead Blade got up on the top turnbuckle, distracted basically Pentagon. They had some words, they shoved each other, and then Jungle Boy rolled up Blade for the win. So it's nice to see Jurassic Express getting more momentum. But like I said, after the match, after Blade, Butcher, and the Lucha Brothers were arguing some more, Eddie Kingston came out and basically played the peacemaker between them all. He praised them all, talked about how we were fighting on the indies, said divided they will fall apart and they should follow him, and then they embraced with a big group hug. And that was basically how the segment ended. Now, the Death Triangle between Pac and the Lucha Brothers is put on hold because Pac is still stuck in the UK due to restrictions. So that's kind of iffy. But if the Lucha Brothers find some direction for them, that should be interesting. Butcher and Blade have been getting better and better week by week. So we'll see. Next up, we had, Britt Baker and Reba looked like they were going to give an update. And then, they were in a gym, and then to their right, or their left, Penelope Ford and Kip Sabian were making out, and basically interrupted Britt Baker. And then Britt Baker explained how Big Swole, she signed for a match with Britt Baker, but the type of match wasn't known, so they signed on for a handicap match, recruited Penelope Ford, and offered that Reba do their breakup free for a year. So it is what it is. I'm curious when Britt Baker is going to be healthy. Should be soon. She said all out, but I think the match is made for next week, so we'll see how healthy she actually is next week. We were supposed to get Orange Cassidy's first interview next, but he was interrupted by Chris Jericho, who praised Orange Cassidy for winning the rematch and proposed offer for their trilogy at All Out, a Mimosa Mayhem match. And there was a nice little dialogue video made for the match. Apparently, you can only win by pinfall, submission, or throw your opponent into a vat of mimosa, considering that Jericho likes the bubbly and Orange Cassidy likes orange juice. So I guess it goes well. I'm curious how it's going to look with glasses of mimosa outside the ring. Should be interesting. They will obviously try to make it as interesting as it can be, so we'll see. I just realized I burned myself. I don't know how, but it is what it is. After that, or actually the Inner Circle, they beat up the Best Friends in Orange Cassidy and doused them in champagne, or the little bit of bubbly. And that's how the segment ended. But so after that, we had 3, 4, and 5 of the Dark Order, aka Alan Angels, Alex Reynolds, and John Silvers, first the Elite. Now, the issue I have with this match, I'm sure some will agree, the masks of the Dark Order. I mean, we all know who they were. Taz on commentary was even having trouble figuring out who is who of the Dark Order because of the masks. I mean, with the masks, they don't really have any identity. So, nonetheless, they had good offense. or Dark Order, but in the end, was an Indie Taker and the 1 Week Angel by Kenny Omega for the win. Afterwards, it looked like Kenny, because I mean, they've been teasing the cleaner of Kenny Omega. A heel turn should be coming in the future, but it looked like he was going to powerbomb Angels on a chair that was being propped up. But Matt was like, no, the match is over. So they basically went off after that. We got an interview next of FTR and Tony Blanchard. Also, confirmation of a tag team gauntlet match next week to determine the number one contenders for the tag team titles at All Out. Apparently, it will be between FTR, Best Friends, Young Bucks, and Natural Nightmares, the 4 top tag teams in AEW, according to the rankings. So then, Hangman came in. He was drinking a beer. He was upset because of what FTR has done last week and this week. Excuse me. And so Cash told him to calm down. He gave him another beer, and then they cheers. Good luck to FTR for next week in their match. So we got that. Who either FTR or the Young Bucks are gonna win that gauntlet match next week. That's how I mean, we saw Best Friends face Hangman Omega at Fyter Fest. We also saw Natural Nightmares. So I guess we'll see. After that, we had Darby Allin face Will Hobbs. Will Hobbs, he's been mostly on Dark, AEW Dark, but I mean, he's somewhat impressive. He's a physical assessment. He had some offense against Darby Allin, but you knew he was going to beat Darby Allin. Darby won with the coffin drop. But then after the match, Ricky Starks and Brian Cage both attacked Darby Allin. When Ricky Starks was dressed up as Darby, mimicking him, and he even hit a coffin drop on Darby from the second rope, which looked weird. It just looked weird. But I like where the feud is still continuing. Who does Darby face at All Out? I'm not sure. Maybe it's a tag team match and Darby finds a partner. I don't know. We'll see. Next, we have Matt Hardy getting his revenge on Sammy Guevara for his attack on Matt a couple weeks ago. So, Matt attacked him with a chair and then threw him through a table. Apparently, we have a tables match next week between the two. Should be interesting. So, we had a promo by Thunder Rosa who, if you don't know, is the NWA Women's Champion. She cut a promo on Hikaru Shida saying she's coming for Shida's title and she's looking to bring recognition to the women's division, which I think everyone knows the Achilles heel of AEW is their women's division. And with the restrictions and injuries, they're really limited more than they were. So, with NWA not functioning right now due to the pandemic, Thunder Rosa coming in, people know who she is. Another big challenger for Kawashita. I mean, I'm all for it. Next up was the low point of the show, AEW. If you don't know that the Achilles heel is the women's division, you see after watching this match. The Nightmare Sisters, Brandy Rhodes and Allie versus Ivelisse Diamante. This was the final of the Deadly Draw tournament. I mean, look, Brandy and Allie are beautiful, but nonetheless, they're not good in the ring. That's just fact. They don't really add anything to the women's division. Brandy, I don't know why she continually tries. She tries to force herself on the TV, in my opinion. I mean, they tried with the Nightmare Collective, which sucked. As soon as it began with Awesome Kong and Luther, and yeah, that just blew up in their face. Now they got the Nightmare Sisters. Why? I don't know why. Ivelisse and Diamante, they're talented. But I mean, and they won here, but the Deadly Draw tournament was ultimately a fail. Because if you think about it, okay, you had Brandy Rhodes and Allie. That's one team. You had Ivelisse and Diamante. Okay, that's a decent team. Taynara Conti and Anna Jay. Of course, people know Taynara from NXT, and she's talented. Of course, Anna Jay, she's so learning, but okay, that's decent. You had Rachel Ellering and Dasha Gonzalez, who is not a women's wrestler. She is a backstage interviewer for AEW. You have Big Swole with her daughter. I mean, I guess so-and-so. But I guess, well, it just blew up in their faces, I guess. I mean, I don't mind trying to help the division, trying to get better, but it just didn't work, in my opinion. So, after that, we go to the main event, which was jaw-dropping, to say the least. So, you had Cody versus Brodie Lee for the TNT Championship. This was a glorified squash match, unexpected. Cody barely had any offense. Brodie Lee, he had 2 super kicks, 4 to count. He hit 2 power bombs. Then he hit the discus lariat for the win. I mean, Brodie Lee, he just took over this match. I mean, after the match, it was just chaotic to say the least. They took Cody out on a stretcher, and the Dark Order came out to celebrate with their leader, Brodie Lee, who was getting interviewed by Tony Schiavone, and well, the Dark Order did just beat up the whole Nightmare family. They beat up Dustin. They beat up QT Marshall. They beat up Arn Anderson. And the J, who's also a part of the Dark Order. She basically choked out Brandy Rhodes when Brandy was lying across her husband, tried to protect him. And then you see, going off the air, you have Brodie Lee holding the TNT Championship over Cody. Unexpected, but really good way to end Dynamite. I mean, you ultimately knew, that Cody's TNT Championship reign was to build someone up. And you were wondering when Cody was going to drop the title, because he's held it for like 2 months, or 3 months, And the only question is, where is the title fit at All Out with a few weeks to go? But nonetheless, this was a solid way to end the show. It was unexpected. Can't complain. So that was the review of AEW on Saturday. Now I'll go over my NXT TAKEOVER 30 review. So, like I said, the show was good. For AEW, we had 2 new champions crowned for TAKEOVER 30, which, as expected. So, on the pre-show, here's the thing I'll say first for TAKEOVER. The fans are sorely missed at TAKEOVER. That energy from the crowd makes really TAKEOVER. Now, the show was pretty good, but without that energy, it really doesn't make it a TAKEOVER. It makes it, I mean, it's still a solid show, but it wasn't, didn't have to actually push the finish line that it needs. But nonetheless, it was a pretty good show, in my opinion. So, starting off with the pre-show, you have Breezango versus Oli Lorcan and Danny Burch versus Raul Mendoza and Joaquin Wilde. Triple threat, no one contenders tag team match. I mean, all these teams have not been pushed. Well, Wild and Mendoza, they have won by 6-man tags. They have not won in regular 2-on-2 tag team matches. Breezango, they have been floundering on NXT like they were on the main roster. And they have faced Imperium before in a losing effort. Only Lorcan and Danny Burch, it looked like they were supposed to face Imperium months ago, but they kind of gave up on that. So, really confusing to see who would win this match. And Breezango came away with the victory after Breeze hit a supermodel kick for the win. I mean, Breezango, it's just difficult because they have not been pushed prominently. And usually when you go sent back down to NXT, you usually do better. But instead they have done worse. So it's frustrating or mind-boggling if you're me. Because Breezango are talented. But it is what it is. Lorcan and Birch, I personally think their match with Imperium would have been better, but they were just like, okay, Breezango, don't work. Instead, for Imperium. Then kicking off with the main show, Finn Balor versus Timothy Thatcher. Excuse me, this was because of the Timothy Thatcher cost Finn Balor a chance to be at the ladder match for the North American Championship. So this was really a clash because Thatcher, of course, he's a very technical wrestler, submission-based style. So that was basically this match, which was okay. Balor won with a coup de grace, and then a 1960 DT for the win. See, but the way this match was booked was pretty main roster-ish. I'll say it once, I'll say it again. It was basically booked on 2 days' notice. So it's, well, NXT is supposed to have their card done weeks to go, but they really only had one match booked, or 2 matches booked with weeks to go. So it is what it is. Next up, this was when the crowd was sorely missed. The 5-way ladder match for the vacant North American Championship. Bronson Reed versus Cameron Grimes versus Damian Priest versus Velveteen Dream versus Johnny Gargano. Now, this match, ladder match, was it good? Yes. Has there been better ladder matches? Yes. But the crowd would definitely raise up this match just a bit. So, it got crazy at first as expected. Super kick by Dream, slingshot spear by Gargano. Grimes, he actually tried to reach for the title when two ladders were propped up in the middle of the ring. However, the ladders went in different directions, and Grimes was basically stretched out, and Bronson Reed hit a low blow on Grimes because he was basically stuck. But this is what it is. Gargano, he actually reached a la WrestleMania 25 when Mark Henry held the ladder for Kofi Kingston when he tried to run up and get it. Bronson Reed, he held up the ladder, and Gargano tried to climb up the ladder and get the belt, but to no avail. And Gargano, he actually tried to enlist Dream and Grimes to help take out Damian Priest and Bronson Reed. It worked for a bit, but ultimately they got the better. There was a sandwich of ladders and the competitors in the corner, which was difficult, followed by the Tower of Doom spot, which in a multi-man match is expected. So it is what is one of the better spots of the match. Bronson Reed, he had, excuse me. Excuse me, I have blown my nose, but I'm better now. So, Bronson Reed, he had that useful spot when he put his head in between the ladder and he used it as a battering ram. Gargano, he was on the outside. He actually used the ladder to hit the one final beat DT on Reed while his head was still in the ladder, which looked brutal. The ladder was balanced on to the top rope. Damian Priest, he walked up the ladder. He had a Tobacco Hero on all the other competitors on the outside ring, which was a good spot. And then Cameron Grimes, he was trying to reach up the ladder. He was reach up for the belt. He was all alone, and then all of a sudden, Candice LeRae grabs the boot of Cameron Grimes, stops Grimes. The ladder falls over. And assisted Hurricanrana by Candice LeRae to Cameron Grimes on the rest of the competitors. And then, interesting spot, Bronson Reed, he was going up the ladder, and Candice LeRae, she had like a rear naked choke on Cameron Grimes, and then Gargano, he was down, and off the ladder, Bronson Reed hit a beautiful tsunami splash with Candice LeRae on his back to Gargano. Good spot. Gargano, he hit a sunset flip powerbomb on to Cameron Grimes onto a ladder that was set up by Dream, that was a wedge in between the ladder that was set up and the ropes. Brutal spot. And then at the end, it was basically down to Gargano, Grimes, and it was down to Gargano, Grimes, and Priest. Gargano and Grimes were fighting on the ladder. Gargano used the belt to hit Grimes to knock him off the ladder. Then Priest came out of nowhere. They unhooked the belt like a tug of war. And then Gargano, he fell off. And Priest, the Archer of Infamy, is the new North American champion. Pretty expected, especially after he lost to Bronson Reed weeks ago on NXT. Well deserved for Damian Priest. The Archer of Infamy finally has gold in NXT. Afterwards, we had Adam Cole versus Pat McAfee. Now, I was conflicted because I didn't really want to take notes. I just wanted to dissect, see how well or how awful Pat McAfee was going to do. And he did really good for the outsider coming in to the NXT against Adam Cole. He delivered. He came up. He came out with his backup, AJ Hawk, Darius Butler, etc. They had an exchange with the Undisputed Era, and Pat McAfee, he hit a senton on everyone else. Excuse me for the stack. Sorry about that, but Pat McAfee, he hit a beautiful senton on everybody on the outside. And Cole's Pat McAfee. The one mistake of the match really is how it started. I mean, all the words that came between these two guys in the feud, and they started with a tie-up exchange, which should have been a fight to begin. They should have been swinging, but nonetheless, it was a fun type of match, I would say. McAfee, he looked like he was doing what he knew what he's doing. He had a nice shoulder tackle. He probably the best spot of the match. They were on the top rope. Cole shoved McAfee off the top rope. He hit a beautiful backflip, landed on his feet, ran up to. He looked like he surprised himself. He ran up to the top rope, jumped on the top rope, and hit a beautiful superplex to Adam Cole for a 2 count. He actually hit the punt his Pat McAfee punt for another 2 count. Then at the end of the match, Cole, he hit a super kick and a Panama Sunrise for the win. I mean, Pat McAfee knew wasn't going to win this match, but I mean, for an outsider to come in and do that well against Adam Cole, kudos to Pat McAfee. Can't really say enough. My opinion still stands, so it should not have happened. These types of matches, it ruins the integrity of NXT, but nonetheless, it was a good match. I will say that. Next up, we had Io Shirai versus Dakota Kai, NXT Women's Championship. This one was kind of short as pertains to the highlights. I was watching the highlights. I couldn't see the full match, but Kai, she actually hit a running big boot on the referee, knocked him out. Raquel Gonzalez, she hit Io Shirai with a big one-arm powerbomb for a 2 count. Then Io Shirai, she hit moonsault on Dakota Kai for the win. Afterwards, there was an attack by Raquel Gonzalez, and then Rhea Ripley showed up, scared away Raquel Gonzalez, and it looks like Rhea Ripley and Io Shirai is next for the Women's Championship. Kind of expected, but it's so hard though, because Rhea Ripley, of course, will say it over and over and over how she has fallen since Charlotte Flair beat her at WrestleMania is baffling. But it is what it is. Now, time for the main event. Karrion Kross versus Keith Lee. Now, some people like it, some people hate it. I am one of those skeptical people that will agree that Karrion Kross, his rocket push, pack push to this title match was not the best way they could have gone about it, but we got here. Was a pretty good match. Lee, he actually knocked down Karrion Kross with a shoulder tackle to start the match. Kross, they were fighting on the outside, and then Kross, he targeted Lee's left arm. Lee, he had some good offense in this match. He hit the power slam 4 and 2 counts. Kross hit a DT for 2, as well as a Doomsday Sayu for 2. He had Lee into cross jacket, but Lee, he did not pass out. He did not tap out. He fell on when the referee checks, the wrestler's arm, and if it falls 3 times, he's out. After the second time, when Lee's arm was about to fall for the third time, Lee fought out. He actually hit a spear bomb for a near fall. But then at the end of the match, Kross hit a top rope Doomsday Saito suplex for the win. Kross, it happened. He is your new NXT champion. You knew how high they were on him. Now he's officially with the gold. Keith Lee, wrong place, wrong time, sadly, because, well, I think everybody will be happy that Keith Lee got his NXT championship run, but people will be skeptical that it wasn't longer and he was transitional champion. Nonetheless, we're here. Kross is your new NXT champion. Rematch with Tommaso Ciampa soon, maybe. We'll have to see, but so that was how NXT TakeOver 30 goes off the air. Another note to make. Mauro Ranallo wasn't there. It was Corey Graves. Nonetheless, it was a good show, but was it a real takeover? No. But was it a good show? Good wrestling show? Yeah. But so that was the end of TakeOver. So that concludes my video or this episode reviewing AEW Saturday as well as NXT TakeOver 30. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Again, if you're new, like and subscribe. Thank you. I'll be back Thursday with my NXT review because AEW for this week will be on Thursday. So, but still have a review for you. So, thank you all for listening, and I'll see you on Thursday.